Hi, my name is Samantha Lewandowski, and I'm doing my persuasive speech on why cancel culture causes more harm than good. Now, imagine waking up one day and seeing your name trending online. Well, not because of something amazing you did, because of one mistake that you have made years ago that has now gone viral. You see, cancel culture starts with the goal of accountability, but it often leads to shame over growth and fear over having a conversation. The key points I will be discussing in this speech are that cancel culture can destroy reputations without real factual reasoning, and that it creates fear over growth, and all the ways that we can achieve accountability culture instead of cancel culture. The first point I will begin discussing is that cancel culture can destroy reputations without real factual reasoning. See, people often are judged on social media without all the facts or context. Nicole Dunhofer said in her article, Is Cancel Culture Effective?, that we as a society have a tendency to say things via social media that we wouldn't necessarily say if we were face to face with somebody. Many people hide behind a blank screen with a fake name just to bully others for fun. But see, if we were in person with that person, they would have the chance to defend themselves. But because we're not, and because we're behind a screen, we never know what is truly going on unless we hear it directly from that person. An example of this is a game that we would play as kids called Whisper Down the Lane. One person would come up with something in their head and they would whisper it to the next person, and it would go down a line until it got to the last person. But once it got to the last person, it almost always got twisted. And this just shows that we never know what is actually being said or what is actually true unless it is coming directly from that person. Another real life example, according to Desta Y, where she wrote an article about Kevin Hart stepping down from an award show in 2018. She said that Kevin Hart ended up having to step away from this award show because old homophobic tweets had resurfaced the internet. But even though he had expressed regret and had shown that he had grown from his previous views, the public showed little room for change. And this ultimately led him to have to leave a really huge opportunity in his life. This just shows that public shaming and job loss is caused by cancel culture. And it is not leaving people to have room for real, authentic change. Now that we discussed how cancel culture can destroy reputations without real, factual reasoning, I'm now going to discuss how it creates fear rather than real change. Fear of being criticized by people and being canceled often leads people to stay silent instead of asking questions or learning. If we're afraid to learn and to grow and afraid of making mistakes, how can we expect them to do better? We don't heal as a society by canceling people. We heal it by creating a culture where people are invited to do better and to change. Brene Brown said that shame corrodes the very part of us that believes that we are capable of change. When we're shamed by cancel culture, people aren't leaving room for change. They're breaking us down and making us believe that one mistake will ruin our lives. Romer C. wrote in his article, Choose Understanding Over Cancel Culture, that people are afraid to express themselves clearly over being criticized or orchestrized. This could stifle open discussion and debate, which are essential for a healthy society. We need to allow others to share their opinions, and we need to allow ourselves to have our own opinions. Not everybody needs to believe the same thing. And just because we don't believe the same thing, people are canceling us. And that just isn't okay. That's not how a healthy society works. Now that I discussed how cancel culture is creating fear and shame rather than real change, I'm going to share with you the better alternatives that we can use to achieve the accountability that we're all looking for. However, what other options are there instead of just canceling somebody? Well, true accountability comes from free speech and open education, not public shaming online. There are better alternatives to achieve accountability. When Kevin Hart was asked to step down from the awards show, he shared that he had learned and had grown from his past opinions. He had conversations about LGBTQ rights and showed all the ways that he is not trying to erase the situation, but to change. But instead, we just didn't listen to him as a society. Now, Layla Sad from Me and the White Supremacy said that cancel culture cancels a person and makes them disappear. Accountability culture asks the person to be accountable for their behaviors. And this is exactly what Kevin Hart did, but we just didn't allow for that. Instead of canceling somebody, we can promote spaces where people are allowed to make mistakes rather than fear them. We continue to tell kids that we learn from our mistakes and that it's human. But how come when we're adults, we aren't allowed to do so anymore? Now, we can also focus on growth instead of punishment. First line reader said that everyone needs to start to enter the discussion with the mindset that they don't know everything. They need to allow room for others' opinions, not just our own. We need to allow room for other people to not fear having an opinion of their own. To conclude this speech, cancel culture may start with the goal of accountability, but it often promotes shame instead of growth and fear over having a true, authentic conversation. The key points I discussed in this speech are that it damages reputations unjustly. It creates fear in a society instead of allowing us to have change, and it fails to allow us to have our own opinion. We don't heal as a society by canceling someone. We heal it by creating a culture where people are invited to do better, not to just disappear. Thank you.